Hello, I'm Vanessa Tijerina. I come from Deep South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, your District 2. I come before you as a parent, an advocate for parents, children, and teachers, a nurse of nearly 20 years, a credentialed biologist, and as a current U.S. congressional candidate. And the concerns that I'm about to bring up right now come from Congress putting TEA in a very dire position by defunding them, and I'm very sorry about that. I have struggled to advocate for my son for 4 years, as I have been constantly obstructed and continuously bewildered when I would encounter school districts blatantly violating federal law. Then came the Rosenthal report from the Houston Chronicle titled "Denied: How Texas Keeps Tens of Thousands of Kids Out of Special Education." And all became clear. I understood that my son, my younger children, and the futures of Texas children would be negatively affected, all because of the lack of federal oversight over entities such as TEA that disperse federal funds. This is one reason I am currently running for U.S. Congress. It will be a shame if Texas has to be defended in a lawsuit simply because a group of folks came to some possibly unethical solutions to manage a budget. Abuse may come in many forms, including unjust practices. The definition of neglect in the legal sense is defined by an entity or individual falling below their given standards. I believe TEA has fallen below standards, specifically federal standards that were put in place to prevent the very practices TEA has and is currently implementing, specifically the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and the Individuals with Disabilities Act, both of which were put in place to ensure FAPE. With Texas denying a free and appropriate public education under IDEA, Texas has failed to prepare an entire generation of unidentified students to be able to further their post-secondary education, to prepare them for employment and independent living, all of which negatively impact the society of Texas as a whole. When children are denied special education, the following occur. Many don't graduate, thus they miss out on critical general education. If they go to college, they are unable to identify they need disability services, and thus they fail. Social Security benefits are denied. If a child is not placed in special education, the SSA deems that child not having a need. As adults, they attempt to apply for benefits. One question they are asked: were you in special education as a child? If not, more often than not, they are denied. STAR testing. When 250,000 unidentified special education students are taking a test based on information they were unable to process during the year, this leads to poor scores. School districts, teachers, and students are held to these scores. Forcing teachers to mainstream these students affects the ability of general education students to learn and for teachers to teach. Bullying. These children are at high risk for physical, mental, and at times sexual abuse from peers and faculty. Many of these children have gone on to enter the school-to-prison pipeline because the manifestation of their behavior is not being identified and addressed. If their second language is English and they do not have citizenship, they grow into adults and risk deportation when violating a law. The efforts of advocates are in vain and futile. While this 8.5% practice remains in place, I am imploring you to suspend this entire practice as earliest as you possibly can during the time TEA looks into the matter. I also encourage all Texas school districts, in the South especially, where we're most affected, to push back against this unjust practice. I find it hard to believe that TEA and its board will not come under fire if they attempt to force all protesting school districts into submitting corrective action plans, submit regular status reports, or commence a takeover of any or all districts, all moves that are tools of harassment and retaliation to force unethical compliance. I leave you with a reminder. The world is watching. America is watching, and Texas is watching. So are all its voters and all its potential voters. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Maynard. Madam Chair, and this is the reference to the sort of the ceiling that's put on the number of students, the percentage of students that can be classified as special ed. Is that by law or by rule? Is that the commissioner's rule? Just if I can ask staff.
I don't know
I
if
was
there's
told-
anyone here that could, from the agency, that could kind of speak to that. We didn't really, I don't think anybody has. I want to make sure that the members all got the notice. I think Ms. Ratcliffe sent a note to everyone regarding an update on that from the commissioner yesterday. Did everyone receive that? I want to make sure that I'm going to say it, make sure I say it right.
You can call me Vanessa.
Vanessa, okay. That Vanessa gets a copy of what we all received. Can we give her a copy of that because it had web links as well. So I want to make sure that you receive that. Does anybody have a question for her? Thank you so much for coming and talking to us today.
Thank you. And thank you for all you do.